What's up, YouTube? What's up, y'all? I know y'all probably tired of me hitting y'all with these late night philosophical talks, but this is a lot of when my philosophical thinking happens. Got hair in my mouth. So this philosophical video is going to be more so my own philosophical type of talk, more so than like something relating to a book. Now, maybe a philosopher has said something similar to this, and I just haven't got to them yet. Maybe it's in Beyond Good and Evil. Maybe it's in the Republic. Who knows? I don't know. Don't spoil me. I'm going on this journey now. Y'all can recommend me some philosophy books to read though, because I ordered one not too long ago. But I've been trying to get deeper into it. So this philosophical take I have has been a take that I've had or that I've been thinking on for not very long, maybe like 2 to 3 months, maybe more so like 2 months, and it's the idea of rebirth. Now, when I say rebirth, I don't mean things like reincarnation, anything spiritual, but rebirth in a sense of becoming a sense of a new self. To elaborate on that, is are you the same person you were, 5 years ago, 10 years ago? And I'm 22. So for people who are younger, probably it may be very different because 5, 10 years ago, some of us was in middle school or high school, just starting high school or high school in general. And then you go further down, we were children and very impressionable. But this still plays a part. So bear with me. So I believe that the concept of rebirthing should be, or rebirth should be, there should be a time and point in your life, maybe 2, 3 years or 5 years, where you really sit down and you try to remember everything you've done, every good thing, every bad thing that you have done, and really sit down with yourself and think, am I the same person I was then? Now, I don't think initially you should think of it as a good and bad thing. I don't think you should think, man, it's 5 years and I'm the same person I was 5 years ago. That's terrible. Or, oh, I love the fact that I'm the same person I was 5 years ago and now. I don't think you should put those things into it at the initial thought process. I do not believe that, right? You need to see if you have in some way changed, right? Change isn't doesn't always have to be positive, and it doesn't have to always be negative. Change is just something that happens. It fluctuates, and everybody changes. I do believe that as people, we do rebirth, or we are reborn, but we don't look at it this way. And the reason I say that is because, for example, a lot of you may have different beliefs and different views on life than your family. Now, it may not be, some people it may be completely different, and then some people it may be there's some similarities, but then there's slight differences, and it is not that much of a difference. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. But it is that y'all have been reborn, because basically staying the way that you were, I believe, in a sense, is not being reborn, as being kept as the same person. Now, what makes this, I guess, this because I even think about it, I'm like, what could make this harder, right? What could make being reborn or rebirth in a sense harder to like acquire? And I think it would be changing views. Now, I don't believe that you have to change a certain view on life or a certain aspect on life, but there is a time and place where I think as people we should ask ourselves, do we still believe the same things that we believed years ago? So a prime example, a good example I can use for myself is I I believed that I don't know the best example, and that's kind of a bad thing, I guess. But I think, okay, the I believed that it's a theory out there that I forgot what it's called, or a belief out there that's like um would you, let's say something happens to your friend, right? And or someone does something behind your friend's back, and you feel like you should tell your friend, but what's compelling you or what's holding you back from not telling your friend is the fact that you don't want to hurt them. So you ask yourself, should I tell them because I'm a friend and I care about what this action is being done behind their back, or should I not tell them because I care and I don't want to see them hurt, right? And I used to be on the side of I don't want to see a person hurt, so I wouldn't tell them what was going on, right? Or I wouldn't tell a person what's going on. Like, not saying I hang out with people like this now, but I knew people who were like cheat on the women that they were with, or the people, the guys that they were with, and sometimes I was cool with these people, and I was like, I don't know if I should tell them though, because it wasn't even the fact that like they may not even believe me because of how they love their partner or whatever, but it's also just the fact that like I don't want to be the bearer of bad news. I don't want to hurt their feelings. Like just maybe they'll take it better if they find out for themselves and not find out through me. And now, does that make you a bad person? I don't think so, depending on your intention, again, on why you didn't tell that person. But I do think it does make you feel guilty. And feeling guilty doesn't always necessarily mean you've done something bad. It just means you've done something that you felt as if was wrong. And I used to be like that. I used to be like, nah, but now I'm definitely on the track of like, if something bad is happening to somebody, regardless of how close I am with them or not, um, I'm gonna let that person know, right? I believe that person deserves the right to know what goes on. Now, whatever they choose to do with that information, if they pin me as a liar, if they don't believe me, or if they go and confront that person, or if they don't confront the person and they just continue to be with that person regardless of what happened, or what was said to them, then that is their choice. But I think the idea of letting it be out there and knowing that maybe you did your part and that this person had more so of a choice than just being led astray. Um, so I think, right, that people, uh, I think in that sense is what I mean by rebirth, right? And that's, I feel like that was a good example I could use, and there's better examples, I believe. But that's what I mean, like these deep thought ideals. Like, at one point in time, another example. At one point in time, so I grew up in a very religious family. My family is very, very religious, very God heavy, God fearing. I grew up, and at one point in time, I will sit here and say I did consider myself a Christian. But the older I got, the more and more I realized that my view of the Christian God was not that of the actual Christian God, what people view as like God in Christianity. And also, my beliefs didn't really align with what was said in the Bible. And what I mean by beliefs is like how you should love God and how God loves us and everything like that. But my belief didn't align with that. So I then started to change what I believed in. And I felt like that was a form of rebirth. But, then I went through another change where I was trying to find out, because I went through this point in time in my life where I felt like I was in a real bad psychosis. I'll be real with y'all, bro. This is one of my very, like, as Soul Illuminati would say, I guess, like, very Matrix moments where, like, everything I was watching on YouTube or everything I was watching at the time or like that was just getting thrown on my feed was like, you can't be a strong person if you don't have faith in a higher power. And I was like, and I was low key kind of scared. Like I felt fear in my heart because I was like, bro, like, what if, believing in a higher power does actually mean paradise? And so I was trying to find other religions. What resonated with me the most was Buddhism. And while Buddhism isn't, a lot of people get the misinterpretation that Buddha is God. Buddha but reaching Buddhahood just means reaching ultimate enlightenment or absolute enlightenment or just enlightenment in general instead of adding extra or adjectives. It just means enlightenment. When you're a Buddha, you're just the enlightened one, right? Like when they say Gojo is the honored one, like you're the enlightened one. It doesn't mean that you're a god. It doesn't mean that you even believe that you're a god. Now, do a lot of people reach Buddhahood? I would presumably say no. But I'm not the barrier of that. I don't determine that, right? You determine if you've reached Buddhahood, right? Now I did stir or stem away from Buddhism because I never was really faithful to the practice, and it didn't feel right to me to continuously say like, oh yeah, I'm a Buddhist, I'm a Buddhist, I'm a Buddhist, or I believe in Buddhism when I wasn't faithful to the practice. Like I didn't really do anything. The only thing I did in it at the time was stir away from pork. Like I didn't eat pork, and then after a while, it just got to a point to where I'm not gonna lie to y'all, I did end up eating pork again because I was like, bruh, pork is literally everywhere. Like I go to a grocery store, you're gonna see more pork products than you probably are chicken and beef. Okay, so it's one of the things where I was like, and plus on top of that, I protein like working out, trying to get the gains. Like I'm like I can't be stingy with no type of meat and pork. Like since pork is everywhere, hot dogs are really cheap. But I think you are reborn a lot, but reborn and rebirth, to explain that more, does not mean you just have a different change of mind like this, right? It's these deep complex thoughts that end up changing, that change your whole character. And that's what I mean by rebirth. And I feel like as people we need to go through that, because I feel like the only way as people we can grow and grow and grow, and we can even make society better, is if we adapt. I think the biggest thing that needs to be taught to us as people is adaptivity, adapting to our surroundings, to new things. Now, adapting does not mean conforming. I feel like a lot of times people will hear something like that and they'll be like, oh, well, if I have to adapt, I have to conform. And it's like, no. It just means that you have to understand the times we're in and understand why it's this way and how can we progress as a society in this way, in a positive way, not a negative way. How can we have a positive trajectory, right? Not a negative one. But rebirth, I feel like, is something that we as people should do all the time. Now, it's not something like meditation. I think some people would think it would be along the lines of like, oh, we meditate and we're deep in thought. And while I do think that meditation could be like something that leads you into that, but I personally don't meditate, so I won't say, and I'm not saying do things that work for me. Obviously go and experience for yourself and do things for yourself, but I don't meditate. So but I think, like I said, I think if we as people are more if we acknowledge that we actually go through rebirths a lot of the time. Now obviously we don't consider that. I think the average person will look at it as, growing up, right? Just growing up, just going through life experiences and everything like that. But there are people who grow up, and it's rare. I think it's rare. I'm not saying that I think that this is common, but there are people out there who do grow up who have not thought differently in years. And now like I said, there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. And I think in the later half, like I'll probably make a part 2 to this because I'm not trying to make this video too long because it is late and I gotta go to sleep to go to work. But a part 2 of this will be like a more emotional, like why I think emotionally it could stop us, or why people may not do that emotionally. Why comfortability, or why it's easier to be complacent. Because I think when you're being reborn, it does take a lot of thought, and it is kind of an uncomfortable thing because you have to add, you basically are questioning yourself as if you don't know, right? And that's not the case. The fear that the fear is, I feel like the questioning aspect is like, wow, I gotta question myself as if I'm not confident in these things. It's just like no, it's not that you may not be confident. It's just asking yourself, is this the same belief or not? And I do believe that because of these questions, also that goes into rebirth. Now, I understand this could be confusing. That's why I said I may make a part two. I may make several parts of this, honestly. But I believe if you ask yourself a series of questions, a series of deep, thought provoking questions, come down to the same conclusion, come down to the same answer, that's also a rebirth. The reason is because you're asking yourself these uncomfortable questions to make sure that you're coming down to the same conclusion. It's like it's not because like, oh, well, how is it a rebirth if I'm still the same? It's because through everyday life you're not asking yourself those questions all the time, are you? Now if you are, then technically then no, you're not going through a rebirth. But majority of the time you aren't asking yourself these thought provoking questions. And a lot of times as people, we're not put in situations where we gotta as almost morally like morally questioning or morally like confusing or curious questions, or we're not put in a position where we have to like always question stuff deeply. Now obviously if you're a thinker and you think a lot, then it's different, but then even as a thinker there's times where like certain deeper conversations or deeper thoughts can slip your mind, right? So this is just part one. And if you guys understand, then type understanding down below. If you guys don't understand, then I can elaborate more. Like I said, I will make a part two to this. This probably just gonna go up on the channel. I'm probably not even gonna, you feel me? But yeah. Uh, I love y'all, bro. I hope y'all have an amazing night or day whenever y'all watching this. The philosophical talks, well, this is considered one of them, but the reviewing philosophical text, my philosophical analysis and everything like that, will be coming back. I'm gonna be real with y'all. I've just been really tired. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, I've just been really tired. So reading, trying to fit that in my schedule while being tired, and like I be trying to understand and comprehend these philosophical texts. So I just don't want to read it when I'm tired and then make a very like absurd observation and then write it down, and then it'd be something that I don't agree with completely. Um, so yeah, but they will be back. I love y'all, man. Peace.